Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the ProTech and Chavez Redencion Auto. How cool. I am late to the game on this one. I am a gigantic fan of ProTech knives, and I'm also a gigantic fan of Chavez knives. Have been for a long time. Own multiple of each. So this is kind of a match made in heaven, at least for me. It is really, really cool. Thank you so much to Blade HQ for getting one of these in my hands. Really, really awesome. I will link this knife down in the description. It is absolutely available, at least at the time of this upload. And there are multiple configurations. It does help my channel when you use those links. That's entirely up to you. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. And make sure that you set your notifications to on for the Metal Complex YouTube channel. Overall length of this guy, not quite 8 inches. We're looking at 7.85 inches. Blade length is about 3.35, and cutting edge is about 3 1/8. Let's do some size comparisons right off the bat. The closest thing that I have to this, because people wanted to know how close is it to like the full-size Redencion. So this is a kickstop Redencion. Actually, to be honest with you, I believe my original 229 thumb stud version was Riot. I'm not sure who did them moving forward. I would guess it was Riot, like these kickstop ones, I would guess, but I'm not sure. It doesn't really matter because I've already reviewed this. I'm sure that information's in the review. This is the full size that was based on the 228, which was based on the original, which was much bigger. But this guy is definitely larger. These are about 8 1/4 inches, and they are also thicker. I think the fact that the auto is smaller and thinner is actually going to appeal to more people, because this guy is not only bulky and chunky to carry around, it's also got much sharper corners. This guy's been knocked back, and it kind of makes the best of those Chavez ergonomics or those Chavez lines without leaving you with these super pointy edges. So yeah, let's do some size comparisons against some more common knives up against the AD10 and my own Excalibur. These are larger knives at about 8 1/2 inches. So you can see here, they're bigger, but they don't necessarily make this look like a small knife. Let's put it up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3. You can see here it's kind of, I don't know, I'd call that in between, maybe closer to the PM2. And then finally, we'll put it up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue and the Hogue Deca. Fairly close. Hogue Deca. How's the action? Something I love about ProTech knives, and there are a lot of companies who make side-opening automatic knives that I really love, I love Kershaw. I think their launch series knives are great. They are not as powerful as ProTech's, hands down. I can't tell you how many ProTech knives I have handled on this channel. I have handled almost every single launch series knife that exists, and Kershaw makes a good auto. ProTech knives just fire harder. They just do. They're not the most powerful I've ever handled, but gosh, they're way up there. You know, and I like that. Not everybody likes it and not everybody cares. Truthfully, the only thing that matters is when you hold the button down, is that coil spring able to keep that blade moving out into the open position? That's what you want. It just needs to fire hard enough to reliably deploy in most settings that you're not like aggressively abusing the knife. And in this case, it does. It also just feels good. This is an aggressive looking knife. It should fire aggressively. It feels good. It's got the power that I wanted it to have. It's also easy to hang on to. They didn't make it too big or too small. I like that. Sometimes, like for example, the automatic axis lock Adamas from Benchmade feels a little too big, and I'm not quite secure enough using the axis lock to throw that blade. Sometimes they're just too small, and even with the firing power not being incredibly strong, it just feels a little awkward firing the thing. I don't have that confidence. This fires hard, and I feel good about hanging on to it. That's how that should feel, so yeah. Carry profile, thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. With this not being as thick as the standard 229, it's actually a pretty good size, about the same, honestly. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. It feels like carrying a full-size, fully capable pocket knife without that full-size weight. It's not really taking up a whole lot more room in the pocket than the Para 3, and it's definitely smaller than the Spyderco PM2. let's go ahead and weigh it. What are we looking at for materials? In this case, beautiful green anodized tread or tire tread aluminum. And then we have this tan-coated S35VN blade. As far as what the coating is, it is almost certainly Cerakote, perhaps PVD. Between those two, in my opinion, I don't think it really matters all that much. It's either, you know, like your super high hardness actual DLC coatings, and then way back in second and third place, you have PVD and Cerakote. And then pretty much any other coating underneath that is going to be trash. There are newer coatings like Valent Miura. They can be lots of different colors and are at least as tough as DLC, but that's not what we're looking at here. So that's what's here. It's most likely the same for their black wash coatings. You also have the option to get it uncoated and just a stone wash finish, which is fine because S35VN is a stainless steel. So aluminum and S35VN, and I believe this is a titanium pocket clip. But let's go ahead and that's actually is a steel clip. Pretty aggressively wants to get a hold of that magnet there, which is completely fine. There's nothing wrong with this being a steel clip. But believe me, we are not done talking about that clip. The weight on this guy is 4.4 ounces. So the ratios aren't perfect, but there's a lot of meat in the blade, so the balance actually ends up like okay. It's maybe a 1/4 inch back of the pivot. Honestly, in hands, the ergonomics are so good, and I feel so locked in, and the knife is just, I'm biased because I like how these look, right? Kind of not really focusing too much on the fact that it's not like balanced perfectly, but it's okay, right? There's nothing wrong with it. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'm going to get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. So the body screws are a T6. Sorry, I'm just making sure you guys can see it. The body screws are going to be a T6. Yeah. And your screws for the pocket clip are actually going to be inside here. It looks like there are screws right there, but those are just little like eye aesthetics. I'll put some light on there for you. It's just meant to be kind of like, ooh, you know, cool, like Chavez eyes or whatever. They look like screws, but they're not screws. And then you have these screws back in here, which are almost certainly T6 as well. I would recommend not taking your ProTech automatic knife apart. I don't like having to put them back together, and it involves dealing with that coil spring and keeping the blade down, and the spring is primed, and you're also trying to get the other scale on and fit it back together before the blade comes flying out and slices your hand or what. I would recommend not doing that. But if you have to, you can get in there with a hex head, which is bothersome. Really wish that ProTech would just change to a Torx. It's not that it's impossible to turn it. It's that even with the right size hex head, you go to adjust it and you immediately dick up the head, not the bit, but the head. Every single one of these ProTech knives that I've ever adjusted with exactly the right size, you end up bending a little lip into that head, and it's just visually obnoxious. It doesn't change anything functionally. You'll still be able to, adjust that head as long as you don't strip it. Make sure it's exactly the right size. But it's kind of annoying. I really wish that they would just go to Torx because those don't do that nearly as often. So, but if you need to get into it, again, I recommend you don't. As long as you have the right tools for the job, you should be good to go. Blade stock thickness on this guy, far thinner than the big titanium boy. Your blade stock thickness is 123 thousandths, which is definitely on the thinner side. Is that everything? Let's go ahead and move into the meat and potatoes. Man, ProTech does a good job with their aluminum. The anodizing is so nice. Everything here feels very polished, very finished. I find it curious that they did not, unless mine was different, this is the box that it came in. They did not offer the standard clip. Here lately with a lot of Chavez knives. In fact, I just received some other crossbar Chavez knives that came with both the skull clip and the standard clip. And we've already got people in the comments who are saying that skull clip is gaudy. Yep, people have been talking about that forever. That's just kind of the Chavez look. Instead of buckling and giving in and saying, okay, we'll just get rid of the clip, he did what everybody in his position should do, is just make the clip that identifies his knives. Like that's kind of like his brand recognition kind of skull. I like it. I think it's cool, right? Offer that, and at the same time, you just offer another standard clip. And he was doing that, and that's fine. That's weird to me that we didn't get that with this guy. So I guess the idea was they didn't want the screws showing, so they had to do them on the inside, and then they thought, oh, well, it'll be such a pain in the butt to switch the clip out. We'll just do one clip, and if they like the skull, great. If they don't like the skull, or if they don't like the skull, then it's just tough, So, okay. We're still coming back to that pocket clip. Ergonomically, it is very comfortable, and even as some people will describe the clip as weird, right, or gas stationy, or however you want it, whatever. Chavez has been around for a long time. It's not an ergonomic hotspot. Actually, this does feel really good. It's very, very capable lock-in, right? We do have the Tanto blade on this one. They do offer it with a standard drop point blade as well. But very tough, aggressive aesthetic, and the jimping is actually functional, which I love. The bevel is nice, and even ProTech typically does a really good job with their fit and finish, and this is more of the same. It's exactly what I expect. Nothing feels like corners cut. Nothing feels lazy. It all just feels super, super high quality, which is awesome because ProTech Knives makes knives in the USA. And this is not a company who's at the same scale as Spyderco or Benchmade or Kershaw, right? These are production USA-made knives, but I would say their scale is closer to Hinderer knives than it is some of those other larger companies. So it's pretty cool that they managed to make these things in the USA with premium materials and not charge an arm and a leg. I mean, versus, it's still an expensive knife, but versus a lot of their competition, I think they're still fairly reasonably priced. Not all of their knives. Some of them get a little wacky, but ProTech, for the most part, really good, awesome company. They don't get into any controversy, which is great. And the owner, I've heard, is an incredibly nice guy. Everybody I've ever dealt with at ProTech has been awesome. So very cool. Has the Chavez logo on one side, says S35 Vienna, and then on the other side it says ProTech USA, which is very cool. The other thing I was going to say is ProTech has an excellent warranty. Seam construction, which is nice. That's typical of ProTech, so very good. We have lockup let's show here. This is shouldering, so that's great. No blade play up, down, left, or right. Sometimes it feels like there's a little bit of lock stick, but it's pretty easy to just put, if I just fire this and then push the button, nothing there. So it's a plunge lock, but it's an auto plunge lock, so it's really trying to keep itself locked out. That coil spring is also assisting there. We have very smooth actuation and no pivot lash. Nice and smooth in here, and then click down into the close position, and then your centering is absolutely, absolutely spot on. Let's look at it from this direction. Very, very good. There is one problem with this knife, and it's the clip, not how it looks. How unfriendly this is an unyielding pocket clip. It is so I cannot move this steel pocket clip. It is so stiff and so rigid. It is an absolute battle to get this in and out of my pocket. The tension on this thing is way too high. I think it probably should have been titanium. I don't know what needs to happen. I mean, on this knife, I've got it switched to the standard clip and it's in titanium. It's fine. The bill is a little higher, right? Probably would have been a good idea to do this. These clips are insane. It's crazy. It's riding on a bald spot, which is fine. But getting it, for example, into my sweatpants here today. I know you can't see it, but a fight in and out. Not impossible, but my goodness. It's just crazy. I don't know why they're so... I don't know why they would release them so stiff like this, If you're wearing, work pants or pants with, a thick pocket seam, it will be a process every single time you put this in your pocket and you pull it out. And when you pull it out, you got to make sure you're holding on to it, because you could really easily have to pull so hard that you're not super confident in your grip. You're not sure exactly where the release point is, and you end up hucking it across the room. Putting it into your pocket is a two-hand experience. Do not expect to be able to just slide this easily in and out of your pocket with one hand. It's not going to do it, right? So it's kind of a bummer. This is mine. They gave it to me. I appreciate that, Blade HQ, but man, really wish the pocket clip made it a little bit easier to go in and out of the pocket. That's my one major criticism. What's the price on it? So the entry price, like the one you're looking at here, is quite a bit more because it has the special colors in the tire tread. You're going to pay more for the tread. But the standard version, aluminum and S35EN and nothing fancy in that department, is $300. That's about the same price as like the XM18 Auto. It's like $300 or $325. And this is essentially indistinguishable in terms of quality. It's also about the same price that Microtech charges for M390MK in aluminum. And yeah, those are contoured. You could say the M390 costs a little bit more. So some people might list this as slightly pricey. I think I would have been extremely pleased and impressed had these come in base price at $275. I think people expecting them to come in any less than that are probably not factoring in everything that's involved with this. It's not just one party that's being paid, it's two. They're making this in the USA and they're not slapping them together. These are definitely premium tolerances. This is also a small batch company, so it's not like they're on an assembly line and they're just, like a Tim Burton film where they're like being crammed together, with music. It's not like that. It's definitely a much more expensive process. Premium materials, premium tolerances, small batch, in-house, USA, very little, if anything, outsourced. And you are, two parties are needing to profit from this. So all of those things considered, right? I think that $300 is not a terrible price tag. Would have been nice to see a little bit less, right? Better clip and $275. I would have been like, you guys got to buy this. Like, this is the way to go. This is going to leave some people on the fence. So decide for yourselves. I'll link it down in the description. I do like the look of it and the feel of it, though. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.